You're listening to episode 102 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. Now, this was just like episode 98. This was going to be the second part to the 100th podcast celebration. But I had a really good podcast idea come in. Thank you, Nicole. And I thought, actually, at the moment, this should take priority over my second part of the celebration because I'll keep to 104, don't you worry. So I was asked about my tips for working from home during the lockdown situation we're in now. Although even when we are out of this situation, I hope these tips will still be useful. So if you're listening to this now, obviously, and you're in the UK, you'll obviously know that we are in a situation due to coronavirus where we're being asked to work from home, to stay at home. Schools are closed, nurseries are closed, everywhere's closed. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this in a moany way at all. It's really important that we do follow the government guidelines to help stop the spread of this virus, to help protect people and to also protect the NHS as well, which is such a big and important thing that we all need to try and do. However, having children at home, working from home if you're not used to it, trying to juggle it all takes quite a lot of adjustment, quite a lot of mental strain. So I'm going to share with you a few ideas that might help you manage it better. Now, there are a few caveats here. Firstly, I usually work from home. So I've worked from home for probably about 10 years now. So the actual idea of working from home for me is not such a big deal. Working from home when the children are here all the time, and don't get me wrong, I do have help. My husband works from home 2 days a week, and then the weekends we split. So I'm actually recording this on a Saturday afternoon. Normally we don't. Normally, when things are normal, I don't normally work both days at the weekend at a moment of them in the office, but in order to make sure I am on top of everything, I've taken the option to do that, which is good actually. It does free up a bit of pressure in the week. And usually, even when the boys were small, my mother-in-law very kindly helped with them, and she would come over 2 days a week, which was amazing, until they went to nursery, and then she came over 2 afternoons a week. Obviously, she's not doing that now because of the situation that we are in. She's fine. We FaceTime every day. But so just be aware that hopefully some of the tips on working from home are definitely tried, tested and useful. And some of the childcare things are things that I am trying to adapt at the moment. So I also want to say, before I get cracking, that I'm largely winging it in many ways. So I'm going to tell you things that I do. You can think that they are useful and helpful, or you can think that I'm wrong, but that is completely fine. Working from home, I'm strong at. Working from home, juggling the children and everything else, and basically having 2 days of my week when I can only work in the evenings is quite hard going. So I'm just going to share with you what's going on for me and hopefully share some tips that might help you. But don't think I'm telling you this as an expert. I'm telling you this as someone who is, I'm strong at working from home, but the rest of it is slightly challenging. So the first thing that is really helping me stay sane is accepting the situation, which sounds really silly. When I knew that the schools were going to close and the nurseries were going to close as well, my first thought was, oh God, how am I going to manage this? Because I think as well, when that announcement came through, it was very difficult to envisage the situation because we have our normal lives, how they were before all of this, which was, I know in my case, and I'm sure in so many other people's cases as well, was just manic busy. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, it was go, next. Where do we need to be? What do the kids need to be wearing? What do they need to take to nursery? What have I got to do in the day? Who do I need to call? Etc. So when you think about that, and then you've got to think, oh, I've got to add on childcare as well. It's too much for me to handle mentally. However, this situation we're in now isn't like normal. and it won't be like this forever. It's a temporary situation. And I obviously don't know how long that temporary situation is going to be, but it is going to be temporary. It's not going to be forever. At some point, the children will go back to nursery or school, depending on how long it is, etc., and what position you're in. So it is a temporary situation. Usually the children go to nursery every morning. For me, they go between 9 and 1 on a Monday and Thursday, and a Friday, and 9 and 2 on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And my mother-in-law used to come on Monday and Thursday afternoons, and my husband would have them on a Friday afternoon. So just to sort of lay out how I made it work before. So from going from that to no external childcare is obviously quite a big jump. So I think the first thing is accept that it's not ideal, it's going to be hard, and it's not forever. And don't look too far ahead, because I don't know about you, when I hear all these stories about, oh, it's going to be 6 months before things return to normal, oh, it's going to be 18 months, I just start to get really anxious. But the thing is, these people who are predicting this, they're not people who have this information. These are newspapers who are trying to scare people and sell stories largely. So don't be drawn into all that stuff, because it's just not helpful at all. Just look ahead like a day at a time. I'd really try and do that, just a day at a time, in terms of, okay, what am I going to do today? How can I do what I need to do today? Don't worry about stuff in months away. You'll get there when you get there. And also, situations change. Things might change. You might not be doing things you were meant to be doing. You might be doing different things. Loads of things can change. So don't look too far ahead, because it's not massively helpful in my experience. And all of this is just my experience. So just look a day or a week at most ahead. Don't look too far ahead, because, you know, the guidelines will change at some point, and we will be able to resume different activities again. Again, I don't know when, I don't know what activities there will be, but logically that will happen. So just look a little bit ahead. The next thing is about putting yourself under pressure. So I don't know about you, but again, when I heard about the kids being at home, I was like, right, we're going to have a theme a week, which we have got still. And I'm going to do this, 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 and this in the week. And the days are going to go this, 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 and this. And to be honest, what you do is, it's good to have a bit of structure. And I will say that it is good to have a little bit of structure. But having it so you're stressed if something overruns by 10 minutes is not a good plan. The kids do not care. And obviously exams for people who are older children have been cancelled. So you don't have that pressure. So take the pressure off yourself a bit. Absolutely do the homeschooling. Absolutely do whatever your school has suggested that the children do. 100% follow that, and I'm not telling you not to. But just by removing a little bit of pressure and thinking that, yeah, some days don't go well, instead of having to cram it all in 5 days, you can spread it over 7 if you want, for example. But just remove that pressure a bit. So with the kids, we tend to have a theme for the week. And as I'm recording this on a Saturday, and last week's theme was meant to be space and the moon. Now, we didn't do anything to do with the space and the moon. We did more letters, alphabet, and writing out the names of the Paw Patrol, which was pretty hard going. So we didn't do our theme of the moon and space, but we did, and we also did the, there was something on Facebook about rainbows for the new Nightingale Hospital, so we drew those instead. So if I'd stuck too close to this theme, I would have missed out on things like that. And actually, I think they got a lot more from some of the things we've done this week. We also did a litter pick, and we took our little I Spy books out and looked at different things in the countryside, which have got nothing to do with the moon. But actually, in terms of how useful that was to them developing as people, I think it was much more useful. So don't put yourself under too much pressure. The next thing is, there are some amazing resources out there, especially if you are a parent and you've got a child at home. There are some brilliant resources out there. And even if you haven't got a child at home, but you are at home a lot more and you can't do your normal exercise, there are some fantastic resources online, many of which are free, that can help you with this situation. So I'm going to go child first. You've obviously got the resources from school potentially, or nursery. I know our nursery have given us loads of really good things to look at if we want to. And I know of people who have got children at school and they've been given a lot of information as well, which is brilliant. You've got Facebook groups. There's one called something like Family Lockdown, something or other, on Facebook, which is useful. I don't look at it an awful lot, to be honest. There's also for children something called Twinkle without an E on the end, and the kids quite like that, but I should do that a bit more. There's also Carol Vorderman's got something maths connected, which I haven't looked at. I think Jamie Oliver does some cookery each day. I haven't looked at that either. And Joe Wicks does his PE lesson every morning. This is a mixture of exhausting and quite fun, and fun. And that actually goes into if you don't have children, but you want some things at home to kind of occupy your non-working time, get on YouTube and have a look, learn a new thing. So Joe Wicks, obviously he's doing his PE lesson each morning. If you want to do that and you're an adult, it will wear you out, I promise you, especially if you put as much energy into the workouts as Joe does. Also, obviously, Joe is the body coach and he's got loads of HIIT workouts online. But there are also, if you go to YouTube and search HIIT workout or yoga regime, there's a lady called, I think she's called Adrienne, who does a lot of yoga on YouTube, all for free. She does yoga lessons that you can follow along with. There are loads of things though. So think about what you might like to do, whether that's yoga, Pilates, HIIT, some, training and conditioning in any way, and have a look. Just getting a bit of exercise in, because obviously we're only meant to leave the house once a day for exercise purposes, and you don't really want to be going far away from home, and you don't want to be taking the mick with how long you're out. But think about ways that you can actually move yourself around, because although you're working from home, that doesn't mean it's a good idea just to sit at your computer all day. So have a look on YouTube, get some ideas. There's loads of things at the moment on various Facebook pages as well of, come and join us for this meditation, come and join us for this, that and the other. Think about what you want to learn. Think about stuff you don't normally have the time to do. Something like meditation or something like mindfulness or anything from that kind of mental exercise all the way through to HIIT workouts. Have a look. There's some amazing resources online that are going to help you in your work day. And that does feed in quite nicely to having a kind of rough plan. So I did say about not putting too much pressure on yourself, but having a rough plan I think is really helpful, especially if you're working from home. So if you have got kids or you haven't got kids, think about the times that you know that you can work. So for me, I can work all day Monday, all day Friday at the moment, half of Tuesday, then this is when I'm in the office, half of Wednesday, half of Saturday, half of Sunday. That's when I'm in the office. However, I can also work in the house, I can do things on my phone, but it means that I know when I'm in the office, I know what kind of jobs I'm better doing in the office. So anything that I really need absolute silence for, so recording the podcast, for example, does not work if I have got Moana in the background. If I'm doing any writing, if I'm doing like an article or a blog or something like that, I want it to be quiet because it takes me 3 times as long if there's any blooming noise or I'm being required to, get snacks or something. So think about the work that you need to do when you can do it in your schedule. Think about if you've got other distractions at home. Maybe you've got dogs, husbands, wives, children, horses, whatever. Think about those times when you can get that window of time. So the great thing is at the moment we can make things work for us. So maybe if you are able to, you want to walk your dog first thing in the morning. That might mean that your work starts slightly later, but that's fine too. It then means that actually when you get into the office, you're much more focused until lunchtime or whatever. So think about a bit of a schedule that could work well for you at the moment, and do your best to try and stick to it. Think about the jobs that you, especially if you've got other distractions, think about the jobs that you need to do when you are less distracted, or that you can do if there is background noise, so if you're not trying to record anything with sound, or if it's just the kind of admin-y job that you can do very easily, and maybe you often have a podcast or something in the background, that would be a good job to do if things are slightly noisier. When you have got your time in the office, and I would say as well, even if you don't normally work from home, if you if you're new to working at home, I would try and create a kind of area where you are doing your work. I'm sure there is a psychological benefit of having an area where you normally work versus where you normally live. I'm sure there is, actually. I'm sure there's a lot of writing on this. But I would try and get yourself an area, because I know when I'm moving from the office to the house, it drives me absolutely mad when I can't find things. And because I usually work in the office in the week for long stretches of time, I have all my stuff here. So when I'm in the office, I find it very annoying having to go back between, because the office and the house aren't connected for me. So obviously if you can do that, perfect. If you can work, if you've got an outside office or a playroom or something like that you can work in, brilliant. If you can't, you can use a spare room or use even a corner of a room that you can have more of an officey feel. So you've got your power sockets that you can plug into, you've got your cableage set up, you've got your notebook, maybe you've got a drink, always have a drink, you've got a pen pot, you've got your to-do list, you've got your work files, things like that. So there's an area where all your stuff lives, because it really winds me up when I can't find things. Like, it really annoys me. It'll turn a good day into a bad day if I cannot find the blooming thing I'm looking for. Because after 10 minutes, I don't care about the thing anymore. I'm just furious about the time. So if you can have a little area, and also then it helps to separate what you're doing away from the rest of your life. So I am not brilliant at this, because I always take the computer into the house with me in the evening, or at night, because I usually work in the evenings, especially at the moment. So it is difficult to have that divide, although I don't take all of my stuff in. I usually take a notebook, my laptop, power lead and things like that, but most of my stuff stays in the office, because otherwise it just gets lost. So try and get yourself an area. That's, I think, a really good idea. And you can make it a bit more officey if you want. You can put up motivational sayings on the walls. And I know that sounds it might sound silly to you, but I love it. So on my notice board, I've got a few things that I love. So I've got a little calendar, which was a Martha Brooke one that came in my advent calendar. I've got a rosette, and I've got 3 motivational quotes. I've got dreams do come true, being a good person doesn't mean putting up with other people's crap, and what amazing things could you do if you got out of your own way. And then I've got a couple of pictures of the kids and 3 pictures of the horses, and then the letter R. And I just love it. Actually, I've got a Dressage Anywhere pin as well, which has gone through the notice board. But I really like it. When I'm thinking about something, I can look up and it always makes me smile. So I'm probably going to put a few more motivational quotes on there, because I love a motivational quote. So you can do things like that to make your office area and your office space nicer to be in, and feel more like work as well. Not just feel like you're up at the table or you're at the kitchen table and there's, bits of breakfast and stuff around you. If you can just, even if it's a corner where you just have your stuff, have a few motivational quotes stuck on the wall or something that makes you happy on the wall, do that. I think that's really important. So having a timetable is good, even if it's a rough one and even if it's subject to a little bit of change. I wouldn't beat yourself up with a timetable, but it just helps you be able to structure your day. And I think that's a really good thing to do. When you are working, try not to get distracted with things like social media or news websites or things like that. And I say this from a place of someone who is quite easily distracted by these things. Because obviously a lot of the work I do does involve social media, I can very easily go down one of those blooming rabbit holes, and they're not useful. So be aware of the kind of stuff that you are consuming online, not just from a time-wasting point of view, but also from a scaremongering point of view, from a point of view of consuming information that's going to negatively affect your mood or make you feel worse, sad, anxious, worried, any of these emotions that you do not want in your world. So I say this from a place of someone who struggles with this, and I think I found a way to deal with it. I do still fall off the track, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. So whenever I look on social media, everyone has got an opinion about the coronavirus, COVID-19, how long it's lasting, all the awful things that are happening. And don't get me wrong, there are a number of things happening that are not good. However, what I'm not cool with is that I have seen stories twisted and manipulated just to scare the living daylights out of people. And that then puts me, if I read something and it worries me, if it sets off any kind of anxiety or plays on any things I'm particularly worried about, particularly sensitive about, then I will spend the next however long worrying and thinking about it. And I know I'm not the only one that does this, and I'll be thinking about it. And then what usually happens is then I'll go and research it more because I'll think that can't be true. And of course, then you start reading more and more stuff, which is often absolute crap, but it doesn't put you in a very positive space. Now, what I started doing and do every day is watch the briefing with the Prime Minister or a member of government. And they've usually got a science person and a medical person in Downing Street, I think. And it's brilliant. It's the place where everyone who's writing these stories is getting the information. And I can honestly, hand on heart, say that I have not watched one of those briefings and felt any of the emotions I have felt when I see these scaremongering stories. So even when at the moment we're having very high death rates reported, which is awful, absolutely awful, and I'm not saying it's not awful, I'm not saying it's okay. But when I watched the briefing, I understand that that is what was not expected, but looking at the modelling and how the science people have predicted this is going to go, that has been expected. It still doesn't make it right or good, but it's expected. I can see how the steps that the government are putting into place are there to help and the effect they're having. When I hear the science people or the medical people talk about the green shoots and look at these graphs and see that public transport usage has gone down, I feel encouraged. It's still not a good situation, but I feel like we are going through it and making progress. I feel a refreshed sense of calm in some ways, that the people who are leading the charge, in my opinion, know what they're doing, have a considered approach. And I know it's not perfect. I get that. I honestly get that. But I find that watching the briefing, hearing what they've all got to say, looking at the stats that the people who are advising the government and the government are using, I find that helps me, because then if I see anything else online, I know that that has been written from the same information that I have listened to, and I know how I have interpreted it as it's come out of the horse's mouth, so to speak. So no other slants. I have listened to exactly the same feed of information that these people have written these terrifying stories from, and that is not what was said. And actually, when you listen to the journalists questioning the different people on the panel, you can see how things get spun so easily and how people get misquoted. So I digress. But if you think about where you want to consume the information from, and I would really suggest either the government briefing or the government website. So go for the source. Don't worry about the other things. Go for a trusted source that you are comfortable and confident is just giving you the actual facts, and stick to that. And that means that if you do see anything when you're scrolling, it doesn't bother you as much, or just don't bother. You're still being kept up to date with a problem if you want to be kept up to date with the issue and what's going on, but in a way that is the best source, in my opinion, of information. So that's what I would do with that. Now, a good use for social media is getting involved with groups, and I'm going to give the Small and Supercharged group a shout out. This is my free membership group that I do mention quite a bit on here. Sorry, my free Facebook group, which is brilliant. We've got 2,000, I'm going to say 100 members. It's a few more than that. And this is a lovely, lovely supportive place online where people are genuinely helpful and useful. It's uplifting. People share their queries, concerns, and other people help them fix them. I'm trying really hard to make sure we only have, if someone is sharing something they've learned or they've heard, we're trying very hard to make sure this only comes from sources like the government and people who are in that level of authority. And I have asked for people to report things that aren't, because we don't need to be scared any further. So some groups are brilliant, and especially if you're feeling quite isolated because you're spending a lot of time at home, perhaps completely on your own or just with your children, look for groups. Now, this doesn't have to be business groups. Obviously, I've got the Small and Supercharged group, and I have got the Extra group and Mastermind. So I've got 3 different groups 2 are paid for, and all have got absolutely amazing communities that are really supportive of each other within those groups. But there are lots of other groups out there as well. It doesn't have to be anything to do with business. It could be a makeup group, it could be a horse group, it could be a dog group, it could be anything you want. But it can be useful to connect with like-minded people. Make sure they're good groups. There are some groups that are not particularly positive places, so do make sure you find a good group to connect with, that you do find a good group that is positive and uplifting and you are happy being in. Don't just go for any group. They are not all created equal at all. But finding the right groups can be a really, really big support and can really help to reduce that feeling of feeling isolated and alone, which comes on to my next point about using the technology that's available to you. So again, if you're struggling with being isolated, if you normally work in a busy office and you are now at home on your own, honestly, what I would do is you are not going to be the only person feeling like this. So I would send a message, send a text. Does anyone even send texts anymore? I'm always iMessaging, but I'm Apple. So anyway, send an iMessage or WhatsApp or something to your friends and say that you want to maybe have like a little group meeting every lunchtime with someone, or you want to FaceTime someone or have a chat together. We've got so much amazing tech that allows us to do that. So obviously you can FaceTime. FaceTime is good. We FaceTime my in-laws every evening. The kids love it and I love it, to be honest. I like to make sure everyone's okay and what they get up to and have a laugh about what's going on. With them, generally, there's always something going on. So FaceTime is incredible. Skype is brilliant. Facebook video is brilliant. Facebook Live is brilliant. That's better really if you are broadcasting to a group, for example. A really good one as well is Zoom. All the ones I have mentioned, I use the free option on. So Zoom, you can do one-to-one calls, and I think it's unlimited time-wise. But if you want to have a group meeting, you can do that for up to 40 minutes for free. And when I say group, you can have up to 100 people on that Zoom call. So the other day we had a mastermind Zoom call and I think we got up to, I'm going to say 15 people in the end, and it was lovely. It was really lovely. So use the tech. All of these are really easy to use. You can obviously use FaceTime if you've got an iPhone. Zoom is really easy. I think it's just zoom.com. I'll just have a quick check now whilst I'm chatting to you. If you go to Zoom, it is zoom.com. Yeah, zoom.com. You sign up and you can host a meeting or join a meeting. There's lots of different things you can do. There are, obviously I use Skype a bit as well. I prefer Zoom to Skype if I'm perfectly honest, and I use Facebook video. But get that actual FaceTime, for want of a better expression, with people. It doesn't matter whether your roots are showing, I hear you, or you haven't brushed your hair, or you think you look rough. Everyone is in the same boat. Use tech to help you connect with people. And it can just mean that you know that at 12 o'clock every day, you're going to have a 15-minute chat with one of your best friends, or a 30-minute chat with some of the people who usually work in your department. Just to eat lunch together. You know, you can get yourself set up. You can all be eating lunch together like you would normally and just chat about whatever you want. I would really advise that, and I would really say get that into your day. Get that scheduled into your day, that time when you're going to speak to actual people. Not just type, actually speak. Get Zoom on. So it's free, get Skype, get FaceTime, get whatever you want to use and get speaking to someone face to face. I promise you it will change the game. I had someone I was speaking to a few weeks ago who is a key worker and is incredibly busy at the moment, as you can appreciate. And she's got a very responsible job, a very big job, and she was really feeling the pressure. And I just said to her, look, use the tech. Find people you can speak to. You can just talk about whatever you want to, but you can get home after a really difficult day and you know you've got someone to speak to. And I genuinely think it changes the game. So please consider it. Just reach out to someone that you would love to speak to, someone that you go and see usually, and just say, can we have a Skype chat? Can we have a FaceTime chat? You know, do a wine live or whatever you want to call it, and I promise you it will help you. Do it every day. Do it a couple of times a week. It'll give you something to look forward to something that breaks up being on your own as much, something to work towards, I promise you it's a good idea. If you are struggling with Zoom, let me know. I use Zoom a lot. I do all my podcast recordings when I interview people on it. I use it for work. I'm not saying I'm the best person on Zoom, but I can definitely help get you set up on Zoom if you've got any problems. It's brilliant. But there's obviously FaceTime and other things as well. The other thing is write lists so you know what's going on. I've got a few lists on the go because I think as well, because everything's so different and everything's in such kind of flux and change, you can lose your thread quite often on what you're doing. So make sure you're writing down what's going on. Make sure you know what you have to do in a day, what's a nice to, what's a have to. That's a really good thing as well. And make any time that you are spending in the office at your desk really count. So see how productive you can be in that time. So don't think, oh, well, I can be here all night now because I don't normally, I'm in work for 9 and I leave at 5 or whatever, so I have to get all that done in a day. Do the same. So at 5, you can shut the computer, if this is what you usually do, and you can go and do something. You haven't got any travel time, so maybe you can do a Pilates class online, or you can go and sit in the garden. You can watch something on television. You can do some cooking. You can do something else in that time. So make the time in the office count, but also make the time away count. Obviously, some people will not be having travel time, and obviously we are somewhat limited with what we can do outside at the moment, but there's lots of things you can do inside. You can also do something like learn another hobby. I had a video that the amazing Amanda from Three Donkeys sent over to me, and she is training her pigs to sit and do things, and actually doing a really good job. I'm contemplating sending my dog to her. But learn a new thing. It doesn't have to be something that you would necessarily normally do. If you've always wanted to learn how to knit, or you want to do adult colouring in, there's some very rude and very funny adult colouring in books for the record. If you want to read more, if you want to learn how to juggle or do card tricks or sew or make a dress or whatever, just think about what you can use that time for. And again, it might give you an excuse to shut the computer and go and do something else productive with your time that isn't just work, 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 work. Plan your food, snacks and drinks. That is a good thing that I need to get better at because we're not going out very much. We usually have an online delivery, which we are still doing, but it's a better use of time to think about planning your food, and if you have got little ones, planning your snacks, because I don't know about you, but my kids just eat all the time, and they eat a lot all the time. I don't know where it goes, so I need to buy more snacks. That's a good reminder. And also that means that you don't have to, go out as much or expose yourself as much. Even if you go physically shopping, do it less. Don't go every day. Try and do your best to get those all sorted. Eat properly. I know it's difficult as well, but try not to eat at your desk. Try and actually have those times away from the computer. Again, this is especially true if you don't normally work from home, so you haven't got into that habit yet. But try not to eat at your desk. Try to make an effort to have your breakfast, your lunch, and then your dinner not at your desk. As I said, maybe you can have a little lunchtime chat with the girls or boys at work. Think about having a nice lunch, not just a kind of, oh, I'll just do this, things like soup and things that you've got time to either make a bit more that you couldn't make at home, or even microwave if you don't have a microwave at home. We're into kind of salad season at the moment. So you can spend a little bit more time on that as well and help to kind of nourish yourself from the inside out. Try and keep yourself healthy. And again, it's a good thing to do and think about as well. You can try a few new things that, again, if you were at work, you might not have the opportunity to do. Try and also give yourself some downtime. We spoke about learning a new hobby, but I think giving yourself a little bit of downtime is also really important. So when you work from home, it can be very tempting to just work with a side of work. But it doesn't need to be. And if you go and read a book or listen to something or do some of the exercises we talked about or something like that, you're allowing your brain to switch off and move on, because otherwise it'll just feel like a monotonous however many weeks we're doing this for. It will just feel like it is relentless and there is no break in it. It's also a really good time to actually have a bit of a think about where you are in your life, your business, your job, and think about whether this is where you want to be. Now that sounds deep. We're ending on a deep note. Oh, there'll be something else random, don't worry. There'll be something else random after this. But think about whether what you are doing is what you want to be doing. Having this time, although it is not what we would have planned, although it has, it's not in any way good, and I'm not saying that it is, but you can really use this time to review where you are and where you want to go and make sure that you are on the right trajectory to get there. Because I think when we get so busy with our lives and with work, we move from thing to thing, from thing to thing, from thing to thing, and we rarely stop for breath and to look at actually whether the route that we want is the route we're still following, or whether we've deviated and gone down some other route. So now is a really good time to think, actually, is this what I want to be doing? And I'm not saying this means you should quit your jobs or anything, but I'm saying it's going to give you a chance to think, well, actually, is this right for me? Is this what I imagined I'd be doing? Is this what I want to be doing? What else could I do that I would actually really, really love? And you might find that you adore the job you're in, that you adore the work that you do. And this has really made you feel really grateful for doing it. And that is absolutely flipping brilliant. Well done you. That is brilliant news. But you might think, well, actually, I've really enjoyed the time at home. I've really enjoyed this. I've been able to do this a lot more, which I've really liked. It might even be that when things do start to go back to normal, that you can think about ways that you want to maybe change your working day, potentially. Maybe doing more from home if that's something that you're able to do in your job. So using this time to really review what's going on, what you are grateful for, what you are happy about, what you would like to change, what you'd like to improve. Another point I just touched on there is about the gratitude point of view. And I've had a few videos about this over on my Instagram on IGTV, so go and have a look at those. There's a really, really good one by Annabelle Brooks, who did a gratitude rainbow. And basically, when she wakes up in the morning, she thinks about things that she is grateful for. And I think that even in this situation, when things are quite challenging, it's a really good opportunity to think, what am I grateful for? And it can just be that you've woken up. It literally, if you don't think you have got anything to be grateful for, it can be that you've just woken up. It can be your health. It can be that the sun is shining and thank God it isn't raining all the time. Or it can be a lovely conversation you had with someone, a connection you made. So really start to focus on what you're grateful for. And again, especially if you're struggling with working from home, if you are trying to juggle the children, if you're trying to juggle food, getting the food in, not going out, being in a confined space, not being able to see your horse, not being able to go on long walks with the dog. Think about what you are grateful for. It really will help. And the last thing is, it won't last forever. It won't last forever. Take the pressure off yourself. I know it's difficult to get help with things at the moment, especially things like childcare, but if you can get help with things, do. This might be you have help remotely with things, or it might be that when you are at your wit's end and you have made a commitment to yourself that you will not let the children watch any television during school hours, it might just mean that you put on Paw Patrol for 22 minutes. See, we watch Paw Patrol, and Chase and all of that gang can babysit the kids for 22 minutes whilst you have a cup of tea and just a bit of quiet time. And I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with that. Even if you don't normally do it, it can be a special treat because the children have behaved so well, but it gives you a flipping breather too. Do not be so hard on yourself. This is a temporary thing. It will end. Give yourself a break and seek that help and support wherever you can. That might be through Facebook group. That might be through using tech. That might be through getting the Paw Patrol or the Little Mermaid or even Elsa and Anna on the job. Frozen reference there. Blooming love Frozen. Also, I do know, and this is my very last point, that at the moment a lot of people are having mental health issues. I get that. I understand the issues. and there are some brilliant, brilliant services out there to help you. Mind is one that I keep hearing a lot about. So if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling incredibly stressed, if you're feeling anxious and worried, no, you are not alone. There is a lot of help that you can get without leaving your house, without breaking any rules. Have a Google and just reach out to someone. You're not alone. Keep communicating, keep talking, relax a little bit, take the pressure off. It's going to be okay. I hope that has helped with some tips about working from home and how I am working from home and managing the children on lockdown. As I said, I'm not an expert at this, but these are things that have helped me. If you've listened, I'd love to know your tips as well. Please, as always, screenshot and share to stories and tag me if you do. And I'd love to know if you have got any tips that you can add to that episode about working from home or keeping your sanity, I guess, during this lockdown period if you're at home. Thank you so much for listening. And just to go back to a point in the podcast, if you are in need of a community, come on over to the Small and Supercharged group. This is a group I set up for small businesses, influencers and bloggers in the equestrian and rural space, and you would be very, very welcome there. And if you want extra support, there is obviously the extra group as well, where we have a monthly challenge, a monthly cheat sheet, a monthly live, and some other opportunities going in there too. Thanks so much for joining. Take great care of yourself. Stay well. Stay as per the government guidelines. Please, team, we can do this. And I will catch up with you next week. Take care.